idea the Chinese are proposing is prosperity. China, they've given $100 billion to Pakistan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so they have a very clear vision about what they are trying to do. And it's a powerful idea. It's not that it doesn't have a basis. But from our perspective, I think we need to have an idea that provides prosperity. Of course, there is a defense angle to it, but there has to be an economic angle to it.
Right.
And currently, I don't see the economic angle to it.
So
Our relationship with the United States,
yeah,
for example,
yeah,
is hugely about defense.
that's right. It's moving that way. Clearly.
More and more.
More and more.
I mean, when we talk to the Americans and the Americans talk to us, we talk about defense.
Yeah.
We don't talk about, okay, how do we jointly create prosperity and create a democratic model that can make people rich?
And does that worry you?
What do you mean? Yeah, it does. Yeah. America defends one vision, and China is placing another vision on the table. Now, where I have a problem is when the West speaks about China and when the United States speaks about China, they always talk about stopping China's rise. So they have a sense that you have to stop this thing. Well, that's fine. But my question is, what alternative are you giving? Right? If China's promising prosperity, you can't say to India that, look, we will have a defense pact and we will fight with China without the prosperity part of it. Right? And
so the Indian trade has to continue.
Well, so to me, the real question is, if there is an alternative vision, that vision needs to actually create prosperity. It needs to create wealth. There are two competing visions now on the planet, right? One is the Western, India's a part of it, which is a maritime vision, and the other is a terrestrial vision, the Belt and Road, and a terrestrial planet, where most of trade moves from China through the old Silk Road to Europe, and China dominates that trade. Right? That's the clash, and that's what China is building, and what China is offering to the countries around it is the idea of prosperity. So China is saying, allow us to build your infrastructure, allow us to put in the communications backbone, allow us to put in 5G, allow us to put in all that stuff. We'll give you the money, you build your infrastructure, and then we will have prosperity together. That's what they're offering.
And?
Right? And it's a very powerful thing to offer, but it's not in our interest. It's not in India's interest that China expands out like this.
Why? Because we're on the way to Europe, or just because we're physically there, or is it a rivalry, a civilizational rivalry?
I don't see it as a civilization rivalry, but it will have severe consequences for India. The first level of monopoly is the media monopoly. I think what someone said, 140, 160 media entities owned by one person.
Yes.
Right. So you have a media monopoly, and then you have multiple monopolies, business monopolies,
That's right.
that provide finance to the BJP. Right. So that's what we're facing.
So how would you maneuver this? This is so kind of hegemonic and so all-encompassing in this description.
The only way to face it is by going directly to the people, which is what the Congress Party did before independence. That's the only way to face this.
So back to Gandhi.
Back to Gandhi.
Social movement, protest movement, massive.
Yeah, and there's a lot of appetite for that. There's a lot of atmosphere for that, and the Congress Party needs to redesign itself to absorb that energy and use that energy to create a new vision for the country. I don't believe that the large social media companies are neutral. I just don't believe that, right? At least my experience in Indian politics, and I can give you examples. I'll give you one personal example where on my Twitter account, I was getting 40,000 new users a day, right? And then I went to a girl was raped in Delhi, a Dalit girl, and I went there and I did a protest. And magically, my Twitter users went to zero. They went from 40,000 a day to zero. Right? And we wrote to Twitter and said, what's going on? Like, please explain this to us. No answer. They said, we don't have the data. We don't understand this. We are checking. 3 months later, we decided to get in touch with the Wall Street Journal. And we told the Wall Street Journal this. And a day before the Wall Street Journal article was coming out, it went back to 40,000.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's my experience. Right? Now, it's the same with WhatsApp. I don't believe that these are neutral platforms.
Yeah.
Right?
So what is to be done about them?
For example, the head of Facebook has never met an Indian opposition leader.
Yes.
Right? He comes, he meets the Prime Minister, goes home. I think the CEO of Facebook was a BJP person.
In Delhi, yes.
In Delhi.
Yeah. That's
Right, so why are we imagining that this thing is a neutral entity? It's not. We did Narega, right? Most people think Narega is a handout to poor people.
No, I don't, but yeah.
If you ask most Indian people, what is this Narega? They'll say, well, why are you making people lazy? Why are you giving them, money in their pocket, etc., etc. Actually, Narega was a labor market intervention, right? And Narega created a massive reaction in Indian farmers. It was a very powerful move, but it created a particular reaction, right? And then that reaction feeds in to what comes after. Democratic contest depends on certain structures. It depends on a election system that is free. It depends on a judiciary that is completely independent. It depends on a press that is fair. And very importantly, it depends on the type of money that different political formations have. Right? So, if we are fighting an electoral contest and we are fighting the institutional structure of India, right? We have taken things to the Election Commission, and we get no response, right? There are you can see the press in India. I mean, the press, if you look at the television in India, there's one gentleman who's on it all the time, nobody else, right? So, I mean,
we know, yes.
That's, you see one gentleman there, and he's the only gentleman who occupies that space. Now, in a sort of 21st century environment, where your means of communication is media, where your means of communication is social media, and they have total dominance over those, of course it will affect the mandate. India, that is Bharat, is a union of states. And the implication of that is that there is a ongoing negotiation between this union of states, right? So, in the Congress party, we view India as a negotiation between its people. The RSS views India as a geographical entity. So that's the big difference. So for us, India comes alive when India speaks, and India dies when India goes silent. Okay? And what I see is going on is a systematic attack on the institutions that allow India to speak. Right? Parliament, the election system, the democratic system, the basic structure of democracy is being captured by one organization.